One of the things I wanted to do, it's been a while since I've been with you guys. I've kind of missed you. But when we had our April meeting, we all stood up and said that there were things that we were willing to do to help make a difference in this next campaign. One of the things that came out of that was we said, hey, we're going to start talking to people within our sphere of influence. And we wanted everybody to talk to 5 people. So for those of you that are here, if you've had any kind of conversation with anyone about the state of our politics and what we can do to come together and find your voices and do something about it, I want you to stand. Anybody that's actually had that conversation. That's telling. How many of those standing have had that with at least 5 people? If you had it with 5 people, remain standing. All right. Thank you. Go ahead and have a seat. Well, one of the things I will ask, if we can float a mic around, for those of you that have reached out and talked to folks, what was your experience? What have they said? How did that go?
Well, I had a very interesting conversation just recently accidentally to a Trump supporter. And I want to tell you something, they are blind, and they choose to be blind. I'm very direct, sometimes too direct. It's based on fear. They're afraid. And then fear turns to hate, hate turns to destruction. That's what we're experiencing. They're trying to destroy everything. I mean, this DEI and everything else. And this person even said the Republican Party is good because they freed the slaves. I had to grab hold of myself. All right? So that's how they think. Now, there's a lot of voter apathy out there that people just don't think that they make any difference. And all of them, they're all type of different shades of color too. They just feel that they don't make a difference. One thing that I think we may have to go back to as a people and as a party, we got to put the feet in the streets. I'm just telling you, even though we don't get the votes, we can influence legislation without the vote. Because the flag came down, well, one of the reasons, because we were out there walking, then Nikki Haley got mad and put it in the front yard. But she did. Then the people from Charleston were killed and it left the state. But still we see people in numbers, and I'll say this in closing. Last meeting we were talking about education. And this is just me. Education is far more important than that flag. Not one demonstration I've seen at the State House where they take this reverse Robin Hood. They steal from the poor and give to the rich. And all we do is talk, me included. But our children and grandchildren, future generations will suffer because they're having economics taken from them, given to all these semi-private and semi-private institutions. And we hadn't had 100 people stand in front of the State House and say, we ain't gonna take it no more. So I'm just saying is that people understand forces, they understand bodies, they understand when people, if you had 5,000 people show up, they would listen. They're not gonna listen to people just talk on podcasts and talk on YouTube and things of that nature. We have to turn back the hands of time. We gotta go back to the 60s, we gotta hit the streets. That's what people understand. Because a lot of talking and no action. But our kids are so important. I don't have the kids in education now, but I have neighbors that do. But I'm just saying is that is too important. And second, in closing, expanding Medicaid in South Carolina. I talked to a legislator, I said, why haven't you expanded? He said, this is a couple years ago. Oh, in 10 years, we might have to pay for it. That's how they think it is. They don't care about the common man. And the Republican Party's history is for the rich folks, Democrats for the poor folks.
Anyone else with an experience from what you had talking to folks? While we're moving to that, let me address a couple of things that he said. Let's understand where we are in this process. I'm asking you to engage people within your sphere of influence. I'm not asking you to convert them. I'm not asking you to make the argument against what they're doing, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. We've got to first start the conversation. That means you've got to make it comfortable enough where you can reach out and talk to them and they can talk back to you, even when they're saying things you don't agree with. This is where we are during the first phase, is opening that conversation. Ultimately, when we get closer to the election, then we're going to try to persuade people to move one way or the other. In the past, we've just said, well, we've done phone calls and everything else and had different levels of success with that. What I'm trying to do here is say the way that we engage people is through conversation over time, and it has to start now.
Thank you, Alan. I've had several conversations with different people, and I'll tell you the first thing is to respect their opinion. You know, we all have opinions, and you don't try to force your opinion upon them. Just listen and then try to come to a consensus. And I'll tell you, a lot of people out there now are very upset with the condition and the way our country is going. You know, where is the trust, the truth, and the integrity? You know, a lot of people, you know, see the things diminishing that our country was founded on. So in your conversation, I just say, express to them how you feel about issues, and let them express to you how they feel. You know, and it's not about trying to force your ideas upon them. It's about generating that conversation. And a lot of times, if you can just generate that conversation and they see what you are doing, they might change. It's all about the example they see in you. And a lot of times that could change. Because one thing we have to get away from is supporting the party. Support the person. The person is so important. That's who's going to be. In my time in serving in the Senate, I heard so many people say, well, you got to support the party to be re-elected. I said, well, I'm elected to serve the people. If you serve the people, you will be re-elected. And all about, so it's about starting that conversation with them, you know, and a good way to say, hey, come over, let's have hot dogs on the grill. You know, don't do it in a professional setting. Do it in a casual setting, and you can get a lot accomplished by that. So I've had several come, and I feel real good about it, because some of these individuals are shaking their head when you talk to them, you know, and you get to feel that they are, you know, looking our way. So I would encourage everybody to start talking to people, do it in a casual setting. Hey, let's go out to dinner together. Let's go have coffee together. You know, so it's so important, and we can win people over.
Behind you, Bill.
There's a thing in the nursing industry that, first of all, before you convey information to patients, you have to build trust. Mm-hmm. So that's when the nurse comes in and says, hey, you've got a Pittsburgh Steelers jacket or shirt. You know, tell me about that. Is that your favorite team? Mm-hmm. And you just establish the repertoire. So again, we need to establish trust first, and then we can convey information. And you got to do it respectfully. Mm-hmm. And I just want to tell you that you can actually convert like MAGA, because I've done it. Before I even went to my Democratic Party to even think about running, I just said I wanted to stress test my message. And so I took out to lunch 2 gentlemen. One was an aircraft mechanic. One was a guy that installs security gates in neighborhoods. And I said, hey, can we go out to lunch? I just have some ideas. I just want to run it by you. I think the country's in a terrible place. And they agreed. And they said, let's go work together on this. So we went to lunch. And at the end of the day, they said, if you can promise me accountability and transparency, you know, the politicians aren't going to steal from us, taxpayers, and an economy that works for all, and national unity, because everyone across the spectrum wants national unity, because we're at our best when we're unified. And I can tell you there's a lot of countries out there that are circling the wagons around our house, and no house, any house that's divided will not stand. You know that. So again, I just encourage you to have those conversations, to create trust, to go out with respect, have conversations that may not work. You may not be able to convert them in your first or second or third, but it's all about hearts, right? It all comes from the heart and seeing people eye to eye on things. And we can't put people down like why the hell did you vote for Trump? You know, you're putting up the armor right there. You gotta say, tell me why, tell me, what was it? How can we change that? And so that's just a little piece of advice I would give you. And again, you can convert these MAGA people because I've done it.
One of the things in sales, what he and what Senator Nicholson were talking about, the concept is called moving people to zero. If I'm over here on the left and somebody else is over here on the right, that left person isn't going to cross all the way to the right, nor is the right person going to cross all the way to the left, particularly after one conversation. Moving to zero says there's a whole lot of common ground in here that we can agree on. Let's start talking about those points. And after we start listening to each other and exploring where we actually stand, we'll find there's a whole lot more in this common ground that we can agree on versus the stuff that's being used to separate us right now. Anybody that's thinking says, I don't think it's right to just fire people before you figure out what they were doing in their job. So then you fire all these folks and now you say, oops, they were guarding our nuclear arsenal, we got to get them all back. Well, you can't do that now. Okay, so whether I'm left or right, I'm going to go, well, that just doesn't make horse sense to me that you would even do it that way. So again, from a strategy perspective, if we know that we're going to ask you to help us in the ground game at election time and talking to people, you just don't get those skills overnight. So what we want you to do now is start practicing, talking with people around you that like you. Your friends, your families, the people that are already in your circle. Once you get used to that kind of conversation, then you'll be able to advance it further down the road. But it starts with doing the practice now. Anybody else? Yes.
So, can y'all hear me?
A little louder.
A little louder? Okay, I've had 3 kinds of conversations, very different, with my either side of 30-year-old sons who did not vote in the last election. Talking with them about why not. One of them had the excuse that he had just moved states. Honestly, he had time to register. He didn't make it happen. He shared the sentiment with his brother that had not moved, that was, vote, it's not going to make a difference. So yeah, my sons thought that their one vote did not make a difference. I'm still working on them. It's a battle. It's a frustrating battle. The other conversations I've been having is with the very few Democrats that are in my neighborhood that I've been able to identify. And, you know, there's comfort in commiserating that we don't like the way things are going. But I want to do more than bellyache. You know, we want to try to make a difference, and so together we've been to some rallies in Columbia and, you know, that little local one here, and trying to rally folks for next weekend as well. Making phone calls to Congress, just trying to make a difference, not waiting until the next election. The third kind of conversation that I've had, and I haven't had much success with it, but I haven't given up yet, is with my predominantly, you know, Republican neighbors, trying to find points that we agree on, because there's a lot of them. Even if we don't agree with how to solve problems, we agree with some of those problems exist. Where I've had a little bit of success is talking about your sources of information. I think that's a big problem with social media. We all cultivate our own sources of information, and there's so much untruth out there. So, you know, just starting some conversations about, you know, Fox versus CNN, trying to read multiple sources, trying to get the honest to goodness facts, and just trying to have some civil dialogue. I mean, I haven't progressed real far, but I haven't given up either.
It's not going to progress quickly. That's why we're starting now. The vote's not until November 2026, right? But we've got to start working with people now, both to build our comfort level as well as to build their receptive level to hearing what we have to say. So be encouraged, continue to reach out. And again, I'm not asking you to go wrestle the MAGA folk to the ground. We'll get to them when the time comes. I'm talking about those members, I'll get you in a second, I'm talking about those members in our neighborhood who have just checked out. We've got to get them to check back in.
Okay,
I have a unique situation. I was in Newberry College, or Piedmont Tech, teaching American government and economics. I had 32 students in that classroom that are duals. That means they're between 18 and 22 years old. And between the two classes, I started this argument, and we hit terrace early in econ. And one day my student said, "Can we talk today again?" And I said, "Yes." And we sat down and started talking. We did have megas in there, in mega households. And one of the students got up and said about the fee she had to pay on her jeans online because of the tariff. And then we started talking about Trump. We started talking about Congress and everything happening. One of the factors with this age group, they were waiting for the call or the signal to get involved. And I opened the door for them. The second thing was one of the students said it took him 4.5 hours to talk and convince his parents, who are megas, that they were wrong and explain the tariffs to him. And at the convention, I saw 2 of one of my past students out of that same classes. They came up and talked to me. One of them came from a true mega house. He's going to USC, but he says, "I cannot step foot on my parents' house because they kicked me out." But he says, "My vote counts." And he's pushing. He'll probably be a candidate one of these days.
Bill, there's one question behind you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We were talking about using our sphere of influence. I am a pastor of the Rockford Church in Abbeville, South Carolina. I've served them 4 years. I'm also a member of Mount Zion Baptist Church in Point Acre. So what I like to do on Sunday mornings after Sunday school, they give the pastor an opportunity to review. I don't necessarily just review the Sunday school per se, but I use that opportunity to talk to them about the importance of voting. It is not my position to tell them how to vote, but I do tell them it's important to vote. Once you go into the voting booth, it is up to you to make that decision. But what I do tell them, you have to understand, the pen is mightier than the sword. What you do today will affect you down the road tomorrow. So you have to be the one to make that decision. And I like to also talk to them about, back in the 60s during the Civil Rights Movement, the church was very influential. And as pastors and leaders and deacons and trustees or whatever your position is in the church, that is a powerful platform that we can use every Sunday to bring information to our church, to our people in our church. Then they can take that information out into the community. We would be surprised, especially how the young people feel. You talk about apathy, their attitude is, my vote doesn't count.
That's right.
But I do everything that I can to encourage them. Your vote is important. If you don't vote, you are absolutely, and I'm going to say this, absolutely, when you talk about African Americans, I try to help them to understand that there is blood on the point of their pen. There are people who died in order for us to have the right to vote. And I encourage them, vote your conscience, but be informed, listen, read, pay attention to the things that's going on around you. And that's where I am every Sunday morning that I am in my church. Thank you.
What's very important to know, we're talking about a ground game here. We're talking about a grassroots groundswell. It has to start in gatherings like this. It has to start with collaboration between groups. We're not the only ones experiencing this. We're not the only ones that have something to say. There are other groups, other voices in our community that have something to say too. In the past, we've kind of operated as little silos. It's time to break down the walls on some of those silos and reach out and say, what can we do collaboratively to help raise the awareness in our community and get people empowered to know you've already got everything you need to make a difference. You just have to believe that my one vote will make a difference when it's paired with this one vote and that one vote, and we get people out there and involved. So again, as a strategy goes, you know, I've got a sales background. There's some things that I'm trying to introduce you guys to that I don't want to tell you I'm training you on because nobody wants to be trained. But I'm trying to roll this out in a way that when we need to be most effective, we can, because we've already been through the training camp at this stage that says, this is how I go out and talk to people. So can we get can we recommit to saying that within our sphere of influence, not asking you to go wrestle the MAGA folk, but the people in your household, at your churches, on your jobs that listen to you anyhow. And it's an easy time to do that. There's a lot of clown stuff going on in our economy that has people talking. So now's the opportunity to continue that conversation. And you don't have to give them the answer. We don't have all the answers right now. Sometimes a question, well, do you think that's right? Do you think that's fair? And what do you think we can do about it? And you get them thinking. That's all I'm asking you guys to do at this point.